Chapter 51. Li Sun also saw the long-term benefits of having a foundation establishment cultivator in his corner. In Yu country, resources that aided foundation establishment were strategically controlled. Without connections, even spirit stones wouldn't guarantee access. Lin Yiqing's status would make acquiring these resources much easier and safer. Whether through trades or open purchases, it was a win-win situation. Lin Yiqing, equally pragmatic, was pleased with the prospect of Li Sun's support. "I won't hesitate to ask for your help, brother," she said, her gaze softening. Inside the shop, Sun Kuai was attending to customers. Li Sun briefly greeted him and led Lin Yiqing to the back. Old Taoist song was slowly sweeping the courtyard. "He's fitting in nicely," Li Sun thought, smiling. As he passed the old man, the familiar text appeared. Name, Yi Huaiyan. Spiritual root, high grade, fire affinity 59. Cultivation, Qi refining stage 1. Talent, talismanic insight, exceptional talent and creativity in talisman crafting. Copy. Such a waste of talent. Li Sun sighed inwardly. His gaze fell on Lin Yiqing, and a daring idea sparked in his mind. He declined to copy the old man's talent because his 3 slots were full. Replacing any of his current talents with talismanic insight was too risky. But now, he had a chance to experiment. With Lin Yiqing present, he could copy talismanic insight, replacing innate channels. And if his original talent disappeared, he could simply copy it back from her. "How long will you be staying in Red Leaf City, Yiqing?" he asked. "I have to escort the spirit stones back to the sect tomorrow morning," she replied. A hint of regret in her voice. She would have gladly stayed longer. Li Sun nodded. "Perfect," he thought. "I'll copy the old man's talent. Cultivate tonight. And see if my cultivation speed is affected. If it is, I'll copy innate channels back tomorrow." He focused his mind and selected yes. A mystical light flashed through his mind. And he felt a strange shift. As if a new power had infused his soul. He checked his status. Name, Li Sun. Spiritual root, low grade, fire affinity 15. Cultivation, Qi refining stage 4. Talents, talismanic insight. Innate divine sense. Pill Dao heart. He'd successfully copied talismanic insight. "Brother Li, are you alright?" Lin Yiqing asked, noticing his momentary trance. "Just fine," he reassured her. Smiling. Something came to mind. After showing Lin Yiqing around the shop, they parted ways. She had to return to 100 Treasures Pavilion to guard the valuable goods and spirit stones she'd brought. They agreed to meet again the next morning before she left. Back at his residence, Li Sun began cultivating. Eager to test the effects of talismanic insight, he circulated his qi, absorbing and refining spiritual energy. The next morning, he awoke before sunrise. He checked his cultivation progress. A grin spreading across his face. No change in cultivation speed, he realized. My theory was correct. Physical talents modify my body upon acquisition. Replacing them doesn't reverse the changes. I'm no longer limited by the 3 talent slots. He left his cultivation room, breathing in the fresh morning air. After freshening up, he headed towards 100 Treasures Pavilion. Lin Yiqing, accompanied by another Qi refining stage 9 disciple and 20 subordinates, was preparing to depart. Li Sun escorted them to the city's edge. "Take care, Yiqing," he said. "You too, brother," she replied, reluctant to leave. She vowed to return as soon as possible. Back in the city. The morning market was bustling. Li Sun enjoyed a bowl of steaming spirit rice porridge with minced barbarian beef. He began planning his next move. I can't let this talismanic insight go to waste. He'd studied talisman crafting as a handyman. But his limited aptitude had hindered his progress. Now, with this new talent, he could finally pursue it seriously. It would be a productive pastime and a way to enhance his combat abilities. Talisman masters were known for their swift and versatile fighting style. Ancient texts even spoke of talisman specialists who formed invincible formations with their talismans. After breakfast, he set out to purchase beginner talisman making supplies. Red Leaf City was Yu Country's largest talisman hub. Home to 4 renowned talisman making families. The Wu family boasted Master Bai Yun, the city's only second-tier high-grade talisman master. Instead of visiting the well-known shops, Li Sun sought out a small, unassuming store with no signboard. Its purpose revealed only by the low-grade talisman paper and spirit ink displayed within. Inside, a handsome, silver-haired old man was resting on a recliner. "Sir, how much for this talisman paper?" Li Sun asked, waking the old man. "Young man, disturbing my sleep? Have you no respect for your elders?" the old man grumbled. Stretching. "I apologize for the disturbance. I'm here to buy talisman making supplies," Li Sun said politely. "Well, since you're polite," the old man relented. Then sniffed the air. A curious expression on his face. "An alchemist dabbling in talismans? That's a first." "Just curious," Li Sun replied. "I see," the old man nodded. Producing a box. A talisman brush. 24 sheets of paper. 2 lumps of spirit ink. And a beginner's guide. 2 spirit stones. "Thank you." Li Sun paid and took the box, leaving without further ado. "One last thing. Young man," the old man called out. "Whether it's talismans or pills, sincerity is key to mastery. Remember that." Chapter 52. In his Red Leaf City cave, Li Sun sat at a stone table laden with spirit fruits and a freshly brewed pot of spirit tea. Engrossed in a 2-finger-thick booklet, he meticulously studied the beginner's talisman-making kit he'd just purchased. While alchemy was his strongest talent, talisman crafting held a special allure. A vestige of his original body's years of dedicated study. The booklet, penned by the eccentric old shopkeeper, covered fundamental talisman theory, preparing talisman paper, mixing spirit ink, channeling spiritual energy, and applying sealing inscriptions. It also included instructions for 3 basic talismans. Li Sun had learned these basics during his time at Yellow Maple Valley. But his limited aptitude had prevented him from successfully crafting even a simple cleansing talisman. Today, however, everything clicked. The once obscure symbols and patterns came alive, dancing and combining in his mind. He traced the patterns on the table, mimicking the crafting process. Old Taoist Song's talismanic insight is incredible. "I've become a talisman prodigy overnight," he thought. Completely absorbed. 10 days flew by in this immersive state. His understanding of talisman crafting soared to unprecedented heights. Talisman crafting is an expression of the Tao. I was just mechanically copying before. No wonder I failed, he realized. He'd spent over a decade struggling with talismans. Yet now, a sudden enlightenment had unlocked his potential. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and calmed his mind. When he opened them again, his gaze was serene. With a wave of his hand, His basic talisman-making tools appeared on the table: a brush, a stack of paper, a lump of spirit ink, and an inkstone. He conjured water into the inkstone and began grinding the ink. A familiar sensation washing over him. He laid out a sheet of talisman paper, dipped his brush in the ink, and began to draw. His hand moved with newfound grace and precision. A faint glow emanated from the completed cleansing talisman as the spiritual energy circuits connected. He applied the sealing inscription, and the talisman became dormant, awaiting activation. He held the finished talisman, a satisfied smile on his face. Just as I predicted. With my prior experience, all I needed was a spark of insight. He was officially a talisman apprentice. A surge of energy pulsed from his dantian, and he felt a profound connection to the surrounding spiritual energy. He could sense its flow, almost as if he could control it. He closed his eyes, calmed his mind, and circulated the fire origin technique. Tiny spiritual energy vortexes grew around him, transforming into miniature storms. His body greedily absorbed the energy, every cell buzzing with vitality. Spiritual energy coursed through his meridians like a raging river. He lost himself in the process, adjusting his breathing and the rhythm of his cultivation technique, guiding the spiritual energy through his body and refining it into spiritual power within his dantian. He felt one with the world around him. When he could absorb no more, he slowly stopped cultivating and opened his eyes. He inspected his dantian. A surge of joy coursing through him. Peak Chi refining stage 4. That was a moment of enlightenment. I can't believe I experienced such a thing. He'd read about such occurrences in ancient texts. A cultivator, under the right circumstances, could achieve a state of perfect harmony with the Tao, leading to rapid cultivation advancement and a strengthening of their foundation. It was said that cultivators who experienced enlightenment had an easier time breaking through to foundation establishment. Copying old Taoist Song's talent was the best decision I've made, he thought. He'd saved himself a year of cultivation. He carefully stored the cleansing talisman. He'd initially planned to stop talisman crafting after reaching the apprentice level. But now, he found joy in the process. Cultivation required a balance of work and relaxation. A relaxed mind could lead to faster progress. From then on, talisman crafting became a part of his routine. After his daily cultivation, he would craft a talisman, finding peace and solace in the process. Chapter 53. A month passed quickly. In the courtyard of Dan Hai Pavilion, Li Sun and old Taoist Song sat across from each other, enjoying spirit wine, fruits, vegetables, and monster meat. I never imagined you had such talent for talismans, old Taoist Song remarked. Li Sun had been seeking his guidance on talisman crafting, even showing him his cleansing talismans for critique. While basic talismans were child's play for him, he was astonished by Li Sun's rapid progress. Within half a month, Li Sun had corrected all the flaws he'd pointed out, crafting talismans with the skill of a seasoned expert. It reminded him of his younger self. I wouldn't have improved so quickly without your guidance, old Song, Li Sun said, raising his cup. This spirit monkey wine is a 20-year vintage from Old Man Lu. I managed to snag some after he let it slip. He'd become a regular customer of Old Man Lu's spirit wine stall. If you'd started with talismans, you might be a tier 2 talisman master by now, old Taoist Song said, a hint of regret in his voice. I started cultivating at 15. I'm 36 now. That's only 21 years. How can you be so sure? Li Sun chuckled. Even Master Baiyun reached Tier 2 at 50. Old Taoist Song started to say something. Then sighed. Shaking his head and drinking deeply. Soon. He was thoroughly drunk. Mumbling. 21 years, no. I've seen, 18 years to Tier 2. He slumped to the ground. Snoring loudly. Li Sun shook his head and called for Sun Kuai to help the old man to his room. He understood the implication. The 18-year prodigy was old Taoist Song himself. But my Pil Dao heart is a once-in-a-millennium talent. Tier 2 in 10 years. That's far superior to talismanic insight. Li Sun thought. He wasn't foolish enough to prioritize a lesser talent. As the moon rose, Li Sun continued drinking alone, enjoying the tranquil night. The next morning, old Taoist Song awoke with a start. Worried about what he might have revealed in his drunken stupor. He approached Li Sun anxiously. I apologize for my drunken behavior last night, he said. It's all part of enjoying a good drink. Li Sun laughed. Did I say anything inappropriate? Old Taoist Song asked tentatively. You did reveal a few secrets. Li Sun said. A playful glint in his eyes. I didn't know you were so fond of the ladies at the Clear Moon Pavilion. Though it seems your visits are rather short-lived. Old Taoist Song blushed. Age takes its toll, he mumbled. Li Sun laughed and tossed him a bottle. A gift for you. High-quality all-purpose pills. Much more potent than the usual stuff. Guaranteed to keep you energized. Thank you. Master. Your skills have clearly improved. Old Taoist Song said gratefully. Stashing the bottle away. Life settled into a peaceful rhythm. Li Sun cultivated. Crafted talismans. And refined pills. 2 more months passed. One day. In his cultivation room. Li Sun opened his eyes. A sharp glint in them. He'd just finished his daily cultivation. Though still at peak Qi refining stage 4. He continued practicing his breathing exercises. Knowing he was building momentum for a breakthrough. He was like a reservoir. Waiting to overflow. He moved to the alchemy room. Where the furnace roared. He expertly added ingredients. His focus unwavering. The air filled with the fragrance of medicinal herbs. His alchemy skills had grown significantly. With a final hand seal. The furnace lid opened. And 10 gleaming white pills flew out. Landing on a porcelain plate. 2 were of exceptional quality. He felt himself nearing the threshold of a mid-grade alchemist. Master Baichuan took 2 years to reach mid-grade, he mused. Perhaps I won't need that long. His innate divine sense allowed him to monitor the subtle changes within the furnace. And he had the luxury of constant practice. Something even Master Baichuan likely couldn't afford. He stored the pills and tidied the alchemy room. Outside. The moonlight bathed the mountains in a soft glow. He strolled through the courtyard. Enjoying the serene night. He poured himself a cup of wine. Raising a glass to the bright moon. With my shadow as my companion. A good day indeed, he sighed contentedly. Suddenly. His expression changed. Perhaps it was the shift in his mood. Or the stirring of his spiritual power. But he felt the 4th level of the fire origin technique resonating within him. Is this a breakthrough? He sat down and began circulating his qi. Time seemed to blur. As the first rays of dawn touched the horizon. He finally opened his eyes. Droplets of condensed mist clinging to his lashes. He stood up. Wiping them away. Finally. Qi refining stage 5. Chapter 54. Li Sun was 36. 24 years away from the 60-year deadline for foundation establishment. Time waits for no one, he thought. Now that I've reached chi refining stage 5. I need to push for stage 6. He began assessing his newfound power. Channeling his surging spiritual energy. He summoned the Dark Abyss Blade. The low-grade offensive artifact Lin Yiqing had gifted him. With a hum. The blade floated before him. Extending to 3 feet in length. He glanced around. His gaze settling on a large, rune-covered boulder in the corner. Used for testing and practicing spells. Go, he commanded. Pointing at the boulder. The blade shot forward like a black shadow. Embedding itself 2 feet deep. Definitely more powerful. Combined with my talismans. I should be a force to be reckoned with among mid-stage chi refining cultivators, he thought. Pleased. He recalled the blade. Shrinking it back to a foot long and storing it. He extended his divine sense. Focusing it until it reached its limit at 15 feet. A 50% increase. Previously, he could only reach 10 feet. This boost would greatly benefit his alchemy. As higher-tier pills required more intricate control. My alchemy is already at the peak of low grade. With my improved divine sense, I should try refining mid-grade pills, he thought. Just then, his stomach rumbled. He hadn't eaten since the previous morning. Sustained only by spiritual energy. A perfect excuse to celebrate my breakthrough with a feast at the 100 Flavors restaurant. He emerged from the restaurant. Fully satisfied. Well past midday. The spirit food was delicious and beneficial for cultivation. But expensive. The meal had cost him 3 spirit stones. He strolled through the market. Digesting his food. As he passed the clear moon pavilion, he spotted a familiar figure stumbling out. One hand on the wall. The other on his lower back. It was old Taoist Song. Li Sun burst out laughing. Old Taoist Song looked up. Annoyed. Then embarrassed. He straightened up and coughed. Master, are you here for a drink? Shall I introduce you to some friends? No thank you. Li Sun declined. Uninterested in old Taoist Song's companions. How are those all-purpose pills working out for you? He asked with a smirk. Old Taoist Song's face lit up. Amazing. Even this old body feels young again. Don't overdo it. Or you'll shorten your lifespan. Li Sun cautioned. Old Taoist Song looked frail. His age evident. Better to die on my feet than in bed. Old Taoist Song retorted. Li Sun shrugged and tossed him another pill. Consider it your next month's bonus. Thank you. Master. Old Taoist Song exclaimed. Pocketing the pill and heading back into the clear moon pavilion. Damn foundation establishment. Li Sun muttered. Shaking his head and returning to Dan Hai Pavilion. Inside. Sun Kuai was reviewing the accounts. Master. You're back, he greeted. Yes. Li Sun nodded. About to head to the back when Sun Kuai handed him a letter. Young Master Wu sent this. It was an invitation. Wang Erniu's wife had given birth to twins. And they were holding a full moon celebration in half a month. Twins. Wonderful news. Li Sun smiled. With his increased cultivation, he felt confident traveling the 50 miles to Wang Erniu's village. The area was regularly patrolled. And the rogue cultivators had likely moved on. He decided to attend. And to visit 100 Treasures Pavilion to purchase gifts and upgrade his defensive gear. At 100 Treasures Pavilion, he heard a booming voice. Boss Gao. What treasures have you brought today? Li Sun looked inside and saw a tall man in furs talking to Zhou Buping. A small yellow spirit rat perched on his shoulder, sniffing the air. A soul-calming herb, the man announced proudly. Your earth spirit rat's doing? Zhou Buping asked. Indeed. He's a master at finding treasures and even helps in battle. Boss Gao boasted. A companion. A treasure finder. And a battle partner. What a useful spirit beast. Li Sun thought. I wish I had one. Zhou Buping led Boss Gao upstairs to discuss the herb. Li Sun was shown to a private room. After a short wait, Zhou Buping entered. Beaming. Junior brother. What brings you here? Wait, you've broken through, he exclaimed. Surprised. He remembered Li Sun mentioning his breakthrough to Qi refining stage for just last year. Chapter 55. That's incredible. Zhou Buping exclaimed. His jaw dropping. Such rapid cultivation was unheard of. Even for gifted cultivators making the jump from first to second stage Qi refining. Let alone in the mid-stages. Li Sun simply smiled. Briefly explaining his recent breakthrough and the sudden enlightenment he'd experienced. Enlightenment. You're a lucky man. Zhou Buping said. Envy evident in his voice. He'd never experienced such a thing in his years of cultivation. Just lucky. I guess. Li Sun chuckled. With that kind of luck, you might even reach late-stage Qi refining one day. Zhou Buping said. Then changed the subject. So. What brings you here today? I'm planning a trip out of the city soon. So I wanted to stock up on some supplies. Li Sun replied. Mentioning Wang Er Niu's newborn child. Visiting a friend? For a full moon celebration. I recommend nurturing essence beads. They gather spiritual energy and enhance comprehension. Perfect for newborns. Zhou Buping suggested. Placing a jade box on the table between them. Inside were two small, oval, white beads, radiating a faint spiritual aura. Perfect. Li Sun said. Deciding to buy them. I also need a defensive artifact. He already had the Cloud Traverser for flight and the Flying Sword Talisman for offense, a talisman hull product powerful enough to take down even a late-stage Qi refining cultivator. A good defensive artifact would complete his setup. What level are you looking for? Low grade or mid grade? Zhou Buping asked. High grade and top grade artifacts were reserved for Foundation establishment cultivators and far too expensive for Li Sun. Mid grade. Something high quality. Li Sun replied confidently. His income was substantial now. Almost 100 spirit stones a month. I have a black tortoise shield. Crafted from the shell of a peak first-tier black earth tortoise. Its defense is exceptional, even a late-stage Qi refining cultivator would struggle to break through. Zhou Buping said. Presenting a dark yellow, palm-sized shield shaped like a tortoise shell. Li Sun examined it. It was heavy, with intricate patterns on its surface, exuding an ancient aura. He tapped it. The dull thud confirming its sturdy construction. Impressive. How much? 100 spirit stones. Zhou Buping said. Li Sun winced slightly at the price but agreed. It was worth it for the quality. Anything else? Zhou Buping asked. Do you have the formula for the first-tier mid-grade pill? Purifying Qi pill. Purifying Qi pill. Zhou Buping looked surprised. Are you aiming for mid-grade alchemist already? Li Sun had only become a low-grade alchemist a year ago. Such rapid progress was astonishing. Not so soon. Li Sun said modestly. Just doing some research for the future. Of course. Zhou Buping said, handing him a jade slip along with the shield and the beads. These will serve you well. 210 spirit stones total. After paying, Li Sun stored the items and left. Half a month later, the day of Wang Ernyo's full moon celebration arrived. Li Sun prepared carefully, checking his artifacts, talismans, pills, and supplies. He left his cave and headed towards the city entrance. Red Leaf City bustled with activity. Stalls lined the road leading to the entrance, stretching far into the distance. Doing business here is probably as good as inside the city, Li Sun thought as he stepped out. At that moment, a young man at one of the stalls narrowed his eyes. With a flick of his wrist, he released an almost invisible dust that settled on Li Sun's clothes. He then sent a message talisman into the air. A streak of fire heading towards the upscale residential area of the city. The talisman disappeared into a cave where a woman in a white dress, her face grim, sat meditating. She was a 7th stage chi refining cultivator. Her aura strong and steady. She looked to be in her 40s. With traces of former beauty. She opened the message. A gruff voice echoed from within, "Fourth boss. Li Sun has left the city. He seems to be heading towards the Wu clan territory." A venomous look crossed the woman's face, followed by a chilling smile. Li Sun. Li Sun. You finally came out. 6 months I've waited. Today. You pay for my son's life. Chapter 56. Inside the Wu family's main estate. A refined young man dressed in scholar's robes bowed before Wu Qiming, the family head. Father. You summoned me? Nothing major. One of our tenant farmers, Wang Ernyo, is having a full moon celebration for his twins today. Go in my place. Wu Qiming said. Father. Why should we bother with a mere tenant farmer? The young man asked. Puzzled. Do you know Li Sun? Of course. Manager Zhou's close friend. Wang Ernyo is Li Sun's best friend. Go and build a relationship with him. We don't want anyone thinking we mistreat our people. Wu Qiming instructed. And don't put on airs. No acting like the second son of the Wu family. Understood. Father. Outside the city. Li Sun consulted his map. Wang Ernyo's valley lay to the northwest. He activated a swiftness talisman. His body feeling instantly lighter. He shot off towards the valley. The wind whistling past him as the scenery blurred. I'll be there in an hour, he thought. Wishing he could use his cloud traverser. But it was too risky to flaunt his wealth so close to the city. He arrived at the valley just after noon. Nestled amidst towering mountains. It had only one exit to the southwest. A large field of spirit grain stretched before him. The jade-colored stalks heavy with ripening kernels. Beyond the field lay a modest courtyard, where 20 or so people were already gathered. Li Sun recognized a few familiar faces, former fellow servants from Yellow Maple Valley. Now working for the Wu family. Wang Ernyo rushed out. Beaming. Brother. So glad you came. He grabbed Li Sun's arm. Then paused. Sensing his friend's potent aura. Whoa. You're 5th stage already? He remembered they were both at the 3rd stage just 2 years ago. Li Sun had become an alchemist and now this. He was clearly thriving outside the sect. Just a little progress. Li Sun said modestly. You're doing well too. With your family and farm. Wang Ernyo grinned. Thinking of his twin sons. He led Li Sun to the main table. offering him the seat of honor. Ernyo. These are your Wu family friends. I can't take the head seat. Li Sun protested. You're my brother. If you don't sit there, who will? Wang Ernyo insisted. Li Sun relented. Taking the offered seat, Wang Ernyo poured him a cup of tea. Good tea. Li Sun complimented. You're living the good life. Thanks to you, brother. Wang Ernyo said. I've been cultivating hard since joining the Wu family. Li Sun felt a pang of nostalgia, remembering their tough days back at Yellow Maple Valley. Wang Ernyo had found happiness and stability. They chatted briefly before Wang Ernyo went to greet other guests. A burly man with an arrogant air entered the courtyard. Several people stood up and greeted him respectfully. But he merely grunted in response. He marched towards the main table, frowning at Li Sun. Who's this? He asked Wang Ernyo. Second brother. This is Li Sun. The brother I told you about. He took care of me back at Yellow Maple Valley. Wang Ernyo explained. A hint of fear in his voice. Brother? Not by blood or marriage. And you make your own brother-in-law sit at the lower table? You disrespecting the Wu family, the man said loudly, drawing everyone's attention. No. He's really like a brother to me. Wang Ernyo stammered. Flustered. Li Sun realized this was Wang Ernyo's wife's brother. He could see Wang Ernyo's discomfort. Not wanting to cause trouble, he stood up. Greetings, fellow Wu cultivator. I'm Li Sun. Since you're Ernyo's brother-in-law, this seat is rightfully yours. Smart move, the man said. Sitting down. Brother. Wang Ernyo started. It's fine. Go take care of your guests. Li Sun said with a smile. The man began boasting loudly about his accomplishments. The other guests, mostly tenant farmers like Wang Ernyo, listening respectfully. As more people arrived, the courtyard filled up. Ernyo's made a lot of friends here, Li Sun thought, taking a sip of wine. Suddenly, there was a commotion at the entrance. A young man in scholar's robes appeared, escorted by Wang Ernyo. Everyone stood up and bowed. Second young master. Even Wang Ernyo's brother-in-law rushed over, bowing obsequiously. Second young master. What brings you here? The young man looked at him thoughtfully. You're Uncle Qilin's son? Yes. Second young master. You remember me, the man said excitedly. I didn't know you and Ernyo were so close. What a coincidence. He turned to Wang Ernyo, beaming. Why didn't you tell me you knew the second young master? Wang Ernyo looked bewildered. He didn't know the second young master either. The young man smiled. And you are, he asked Li Sun. Oh. Second young master. Ernyo's wife is my younger sister, the man blurted out. I see. Your sister found a good husband, the young man said. Yes. Everyone says so, the man replied, thrilled by the young master's friendly demeanor. His family held a low position within the Wu clan, barely above tenant farmers. A connection to the second young master could greatly improve their standing. He looked at Wang Ernyo with newfound warmth. The young man chatted briefly with the others, then headed towards the main table, surrounded by a crowd of admirers. Chapter 57. Wu Cheng'an, the second young master, made his way through the crowd. He spotted a handsome young man sitting at the main table, calmly sipping tea. An air of quiet dignity about him. Impressive demeanor. Wu Qing'an thought. Surprising that a mere tenant farmer like Wang Ernyo knows someone like this. As he approached, the young man's face seemed familiar. Then it hit him. That's him. The one my father warned us about 6 months ago. He even showed us his portrait. He glanced at Wang Ernyo and realized who it was. Li Sun. The alchemist. A smile spread across Wu Chang'an's face. Remembering his father's instructions, he straightened his robes and approached Li Sun with a warm greeting. Greetings. Alchemist Li. I am Wu Chang'an. Li Sun, lost in thought about the purifying qi pill formula, looked up. Startled. He saw a well-dressed young man bowing before him. He rose and returned the gesture. Greetings. Young Master Wu. I am Li Sun. Wu Qing'an beamed. I'd heard you were a remarkable individual. Alchemist Li. It's a pleasure to finally meet you. You flatter me. Are you here for the celebration as well? Li Sun asked. Indeed. Ernyo is a valuable member of our family. My father sent me to congratulate him on his twins. Wu Qing'an replied. Li Sun nodded. Impressed by the Wu family's consideration, they sat down and began conversing. Their conversation flowing easily. The other guests watched in astonishment. Wu Qing'an, the talented talisman maker, the future of the Wu family, was treating Wang Ernyo's friend with such respect. They rubbed their eyes. But the scene remained the same. They looked at Wang Ernyo with envy. With a friend like that, who needed the Wu family? Wang Ernyo's brother-in-law was dumbfounded. How had this unassuming young man become alchemist Li, someone even the second young master revered? He remembered his earlier rudeness and panicked. Ernyo, he whispered. You know the second young master? I didn't know. Wang Ernyo replied. And he's an alchemist? Yes. He owns a pill shop in the city. Wang Ernyo confirmed. A pill shop, the man groaned inwardly. Even without the second young master connection, Li Sun was clearly someone of importance. He'd made a terrible mistake. He turned to Wang Ernyo, his face pleading. Ernyo. You know. My sister, your wife. I'm her only brother. Could you put in a good word for me with your friend? I was out of line earlier. We're family. After all. Wang Ernyo, secretly pleased, nodded. Don't worry. He's a good guy. He won't hold it against you. Relieved. The man stayed away from the main table. Afraid of further upsetting Li Sun and ruining his chances with the second young master. The celebration began. Wang Ernyo's wife, Wu Shu Xiu, presented the twins. Congratulations. Ernyo. Have you named them yet? Li Sun asked. I haven't thought of any names yet. Brother. Would you do the honors? They're Wu family members. Perhaps young Master Wu should choose. Li Sun suggested. Wu Qing'an waved his hand dismissively. I wouldn't presume to do so in your presence. Alchemist Li. Very well. Li Sun said. Naming the boy Wu Xianzong and the girl Wu Wanrong. The guests presented their gifts. Li Sun offered the nurturing essence beads. Wang Ernyo's brother-in-law, reluctantly, gave 2 low-grade spirit stones. The most extravagant gift came from Wu Chang'an, a spirit guiding pill, worth 20 spirit stones. Perfect for Wang Ernyo's 3rd stage cultivation. Meanwhile, 5 figures in black lay in wait on a hill along the road between Red Leaf City and the Wu estate. 2 were late-stage qi refining cultivators. The other 3 mid-stage. They gripped their artifacts. Their eyes fixed on the path below. They'd been waiting since morning. Fourth sister. Maybe he took a different route, one of the men said. Impossible. This is the only way. Besides, we have ninth brother's shadow insects. He can't escape, the woman replied coldly. Hours passed. Finally, they heard movement. A tall man emerged from the forest below. A small yellow spirit rat perched on his shoulder. Its nose twitching. It's him. Big Gao. Ninth brother. You know him? He's a famous adventurer. Very strong. And that rat, it's said to have spirit seeker blood. It finds him hundreds of spirit stones worth of herbs every year. Someone offered him 1,000 spirit stones for it. But he refused. Ninth brother explained. A fat sheep. Fifth brother exclaimed. But he's 8th stage chi refining. Too dangerous. Ninth brother hesitated. Dangerous? Don't forget what we do. Opportunities like this don't come often, the woman sneered. And there are 5 of us. We can take him. As Big Gao approached, they sprang into action. Unaware of the ambush, Li Sun spent the night at Wang Ernyo's home, reminiscing about their days at Yellow Maple Valley. The next morning, after breakfast, he set off back to Red Leaf City. Chapter 58. The sun had just risen, casting a clear, quiet light on the forest. Still fresh and fragrant with the scent of damp earth after last night's rain, Li Sun moved swiftly along the mountain path. A faint breeze swirling around him, rustling the leaves. A shimmering yellow talisman clung to his foot, a swiftness talisman. On his return journey, he preferred the convenience and the way it conserved his spiritual energy, ensuring he had reserves for any unexpected trouble. He traveled like this for half an hour. Suddenly, a rustling sound came from the bushes beside the path, followed by a gray blur, accompanied by a faint ripple of spiritual energy. A spirit beast. Li Sun realized instantly. I've heard Red Leaf Ridge is teeming with rare treasures and creatures. Maybe I'll get lucky today. He surged forward, channeling more spiritual energy into the talisman, his speed increasing several-fold. He caught up to the fleeting shadow and saw what it was, a small, yellow-furred spirit rat. A deep gash bleeding heavily on its back. That looks just like Boss Gao's rat, he thought, recalling his encounter with the adventurer at 100 Treasures Pavilion. Except for the injury and its weakened state, it was identical. This rat was known for its treasure-finding abilities. Had it run into a powerful beast and fled? It is Boss Gao's, he concluded. Well, Boss Gao and Zhou Buping were old acquaintances. He'd take care of the rat and return it later. He crouched down, carefully offering a low-grade healing pill from his storage bag. The rat, sensing no hostility, took the pill in its paws and swallowed it. Within moments, the bleeding stopped, and the rat seemed to regain some strength. It chirped at Li Sun, a gesture of thanks. Li Sun smiled. Want to come back to the city with me? He asked. As if understanding. The rat scurried up his sleeve. Li Sun was delighted. This world's spirit beasts were far more intelligent than the animals of his past life. He decided he'd find a spirit beast companion for himself when he returned to the city. As he stood up, a faint voice drifted on the wind. How can we not find that beast? Li Sun froze, dropping back to the ground. Are they looking for the rat? But it belongs to Boss Gao. He cautiously parted the bushes and saw 3 men in black searching the area. Impossible. I saw it go this way, one of them. A tall, thin man said. Fifth brother is badly hurt. Ninth brother is dead. How are we going to explain this to boss? Another, a heavier set man said. Dried blood staining his clothes. Li Sun's heart sank. He glanced at the injured rat. A terrible premonition creeping into his mind. I can't be this unlucky. They took down Boss Gao. An 8th stage chi refining adventurer. He's one of the best. I'm screwed. The men were closing in. 50 yards, 40, 30. I can't just sit here, he thought. 2 against 1 were impossible odds. His only chance was to strike first. He forced himself to calm down. His senses on high alert. He drew his black tortoise blade. A low-grade artifact gifted to him by Lin Yiqing. He focused his spiritual energy into the blade. It hummed. Growing to 3 feet long. Emitting a faint glow. With a flick of his wrist. He sent it flying towards the thinner man. The man, mid-conversation, suddenly sensed danger. A black blur appeared inches from his face. He tried to dodge. But it was too late. The blade pierced his forehead. The force throwing his body backward. He crashed to the ground. Dead before he landed. 7th brother, the other man cried. Then instantly activated a defensive talisman. A golden, translucent shield enveloped him. Li Sun's blade struck the shield with a clang. Li Sun cursed under his breath. The second strike had failed. The man drew his sword. A 3-foot blade with a foot long, vibrant green aura. He pointed it towards Li Sun's hiding spot. Who dares kill my brother? He roared. Li Sun stepped out. His body shielded by a diamond talisman. The black tortoise blade hovering before him. Li Sun, the man exclaimed. Recognizing him. Li Sun's heart sank. He knew his name. He couldn't let him escape. You. Perfect. We'll settle the score right here. Just then. A woman's voice called out from the distance. 7th. 8th. What's happening? The man grinned. Looking at Li Sun as if he were already dead. 4th sister. Get over here. Li Sun is here. Chapter 59. More of them. Li Sun thought. Hearing the man call out to the woman. He turned and fled. Not getting away, the man shouted. Pursuing him with surprising speed. But a more terrifying presence emerged from the forest behind them. A wave of oppressive spiritual pressure accompanied by a woman's shriek. Li Sun. You'll pay for my runner. Damn it. Late stage chi refining. Li Sun cursed under his breath. He'd stumbled into a hornet's nest. He pushed his spiritual energy to the limit. But the pressure behind him grew closer. I can't outrun her, he realized. He stopped. Swallowed 2 replenishing chi pills. And activated all 4 of his iron skin talismans. Encasing himself in layers of golden light. They were only low grade. But it was the best he could do against a late-stage cultivator. He then drew his trump card, the flying sword talisman Hong Yun Jian had given him. He held it in his left hand. Concealed in his sleeve. Gauging the distance as the woman approached. Li Sun, she hissed. Her face contorted with rage. I've waited a year for this. Li Sun recognized her. The bandit he'd let escape from Hong Yun Jian. A mistake that was now threatening his life. So it's you, he said. Searching for an opening. Letting you go was a big mistake. Fate spared me to avenge my son. Your son? Yes. Wei Ren. You killed him, she shrieked, her voice cracking with grief and fury. Renner. Mother will avenge you. I'll tear out his soul. She gestured. And a wave of yellowish light washed over him. He felt his body grow heavy. His movements sluggish. Gravity spell, he thought. She lunged forward. A golden seal expanding to several yards in size. Crushing down on him. He raised his left arm. The tortoise shield deflecting the seal. Simultaneously. He flicked his wrist. Launching the 3-inch flying sword from his sleeve. The woman scoffed. A tiny sword? You think that can hurt me? A yellow shield shimmered around her, a high-grade earth ward. Capable of blocking a late-stage chi refining attack. But the gray sword pierced the shield like it wasn't even there. Continuing through the woman's head. Her body flew back. Impaled on a tree. A late-stage chi refining cultivator. Dead. The man who had been chasing Li Sun arrived just in time to witness his companion's death. He turned and ran without hesitation. Li Sun started to pursue him. But a squeak from his sleeve stopped him. The yellow rat shot out. A blur of motion. It reached the fleeing man in a flash. A claw striking his neck. The man's face froze. His hands clutching his throat. He collapsed. Twitching. Then still. All 3 bandits were dead. The rat stood triumphantly on the man's body. Chirping. But its exhaustion was evident. That final attack had taken a toll. Li Sun approached the bodies. Time to loot, he thought. He summoned the Black Origin blade and decapitated the bodies. Ensuring they wouldn't rise again. Then he collected their storage pouches and incinerated the remains. Relieved. Li Sun breathed deeply. This close to the city. Someone might find the bodies. Better leave quickly. He crouched down and opened his sleeve for the rat. But it refused to enter. It squeaked. Pointing in a direction. You want me to follow you? The rat ran off. Looking back to make sure he was following. Li Sun. Blade in hand. Followed. The rat led him to a small cave on a hillside. Inside lay another dead bandit. A trail of blood leading away into the forest. Li Sun's face darkened. There had been 5 bandits. Not 3. 2 had died earlier. And the injured one had escaped during the fight. He followed the blood trail. But it disappeared after 100 yards. The bandit had covered his tracks. Another one got away. Li Sun cursed. This isn't over. He left with the rat. Returning to his cave half an hour later. The fight had shaken him. All he wanted was to cultivate in peace and reach Foundation establishment. But the blood fiend shadow demons were like a curse. At least he was alive. But with another bandit loose. His troubles were far from over. Well. Whatever comes. I'll deal with it, he thought. They're just bandits. He began examining his spoils. The first storage pouch. Belonging to the taller bandit. Opened easily. A mid-stage cultivator without a developed divine sense couldn't lock it. Inside. He found over 120 spirit stones. 5 bottles of mid-grade pills. A stack of talismans. And a low-grade saber. Over 200 spirit stones worth of goods. Most chi refining cultivators. Especially rogue cultivators. Spent their earnings immediately on cultivation resources. Only the wealthy or those saving for a specific purchase accumulated any significant wealth. The second pouch. Belonging to the other man. Contained similar loot. These bandits were surprisingly rich. 4 or 5 times wealthier than average cultivators of the same level. If the underlings were this rich, how much did their leader have? Li Sun looked at the final storage pouch, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. Chapter 60. Li Sun first examined the small earthen seal the woman had used against him. It was only palm-sized but a mid-grade artifact. The highest level a qi refining cultivator could use. Higher grades were reserved for foundation establishment cultivators. The seal felt cool and heavy in his hand. Likely crafted from some rare stone. Strange runes were etched into its surface. Beyond his current understanding. Too bad it's earth-aligned. I can't fully utilize its power, he sighed. A cultivator's control over an artifact was enhanced if their spiritual roots aligned with the artifact's element. Still, it was his first mid-grade offensive artifact. Far superior to his black tortoise blade. Even if he didn't use it, it would fetch a good price, at least 100 spirit stones. Next, he counted the glittering pile of spirit stones. Over 500. The woman's wealth dwarfed that of her subordinates. This haul alone brought his total to over 700. Exceeding his previous savings. He now had a 4-figure sum. If only he could handle higher-grade artifacts. He could buy some serious firepower. He transferred the stones to his storage bag and eagerly opened a small jade box. The box itself was worth a dozen spirit stones. And the high-grade sealing talisman indicated the value of its contents. A delicate fragrance wafted out as he opened the lid. A single breath seemed to invigorate his spiritual energy. Inside, nestled in a specially crafted compartment, were 2 spiritual herbs. The first was a 3-leafed sprig with a tiny yellow flower at its tip. Its petals shimmering faintly. Li Sun recognized it instantly, the rare 3-leaf spirit heart flower. The source of the fragrance. It aided in refining spiritual energy. Increasing the chances of a successful breakthrough. This alone was worth hundreds of spirit stones. A priceless treasure often unavailable even with the money. The second was a fiery red vermilion fruit. Smooth and lustrous like a ruby. It directly enhanced spiritual energy purity and strengthened one's foundation. Another invaluable treasure for low-level cultivators. More importantly, it was an ingredient for the foundation establishment pill. This pill required 3 primary and 6 secondary ingredients. Gathering them all was a monumental task for a single cultivator. Leading to collaborative pill making. Cultivators pooled their resources. And the resulting pills were distributed based on contribution. Typically, possessing all 6 secondary ingredients guaranteed a pill. This is like owning a third of a foundation establishment pill. Li Sun thought. Ecstatic. Then he remembered the woman's affiliation with the blood demon sect. So they're gathering pill ingredients. Now that I have this, avoiding them is no longer an option. The blood demon sect. Ruthless enough to attack even a golden core cultivator's grandson. I need to cultivate faster and find ways to protect myself, he thought. Securing the box and returning it to his storage bag. This was crucial to his future. He found 2 jade slips in the woman's storage bag. One contained the earth essence scripture. A cultivation technique reaching early foundation establishment. Similar to his fire essence scripture. A basic technique. He set it aside. The other slip held a surprising find, Boscow's notes on spirit beasts. He thought of the adventurer. A pang of sadness hitting him. Boscow had unknowingly saved his life. The woman's words made it clear they had intended to ambush him. Somehow, they'd clashed with Boscow, who had killed one and injured another. Paving the way for Li Sun's victory. Boscow was my unwitting savior, he sighed. looking at the sleeping spirit rat. Don't worry, friend. I'll take good care of your rat. He studied the notes, learning about common spirit beasts, their types, habits, and abilities. It also detailed training methods and contract formation. A valuable inheritance. Boss Gao's rat was an earth spirit rat. A common dual attribute earth and metal beast. This one, however, possessed a trace of spirit seeker rat bloodline, making it even rarer. To Li Sun's astonishment, it was at peak mid-tier, equivalent to a 6th stage qi refining cultivator. No wonder that guy was helpless against it, he thought. What a find. Peak mid-tier meant it was eligible for advancement. If I can get it to high tier, I'll have a late stage qi refining helper. A huge boost to my strength. Especially valuable given the blood demon sect threat. The notes mention a high-grade pill called Spirit Ascension Pill that can help it advance, he recalled. Then remembered the strange wooden box in the storage bag. You are listening to a story on the Word of Immortal Stories channel. If you find it interesting, please support me by subscribing to the channel and leaving a positive comment. Thank you.